Federal Government Learning Associations. I'm Carla Lane. I'm the FGDLA Vice President for Education. I'm the moderator for today's webinar. FGDLA is a nonprofit professional association. It was formed to promote the development and application of distance learning in the federal government. We actively foster collaboration and understanding among those involved in leveraging technology and instructional media in support of the education and training needs of the federal government. FGDLA is a national chapter of the United States Distance Learning Association. Our membership is derived primarily from individuals employed by the agencies within the federal government. We invite you to join with us. Please check our web address, fgdla.us. For upcoming events on September 22nd, Pat Lamore of Zoom will talk about his work there. And what started as just a few webinars has grown. These are the topics scheduled for some of the following months. Dr. Say Schatz of ADL will be here on November 27th. And actually, that's the wrong date. I think it's November 17th, typo on my part, sorry. Dr. Benson Opondo of Social Security Administration will be here on December 15th. We are so proud that Zoom is a sponsor of FGDLA and has been instrumental in helping us present the webinars. We'd like to thank Zoom and Russ Colbert for sponsoring today's seminar. They are the best partners we could have, and they are one of our new and valued sponsors. Thank you so much, Russ.
Carla, you're so welcome. It's an honor to serve you and all the audience of the Federal Government Distance Learning Association. And I want to say hello to my coworkers that are joining us on the webinar today. And I'm so excited that we have Joel with us. He is exceptional. I have done a practice pre-run with him, and he is just great. So it's my honor to be a sponsor, be a partner, and serve this community. Thank you, Carla.
Thanks, Russ. So today's topic, as you said, is audio descriptions, if your eyes could speak. We have the expert in audio descriptions. He is Dr. Joel Snyder, the president of Audio Description Associates. The discussion will focus on how to translate visual images into vivid language for people who are blind or have a vision impairment. His knowledge in this area is foundational to the medium. Dr. Joel, welcome, and thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Well, you bet, you bet. Let me share my screen here and make sure I'm all ready to go. I think I am. If I got that up there, FGDLA webinar, August 25th, 2021, fgdla.us. I'm doing a little audio description here for folks who may not have access to the screen. This is a material Carla already covered, September 22nd, Pat Lamore and Johan Zimmerman. Is that right? 2 p.m. And look at that, upcoming events. I've got them all here. I should have had this going while you were talking. And our friends at Zoom are great sponsors. I've had a great time getting to know Russ. Let me begin by thanking Carla, of course, and Russ, and oh golly, I have all kinds of friends in the federal government who work with accessibility. Helen Chamberlain and Gary Morin, I think, is here. Helen is too. I think maybe Pat Sheehan is here too, who is a great friend and colleague and worker with me with the American Council of the Blind. You know, this is all about making images accessible to someone who cannot see or cannot see well. My opening slide here is mostly text. Well, how do you make text accessible? You read it aloud. And that's what I'm going to do. The American Council of the Blind's Audio Description Project and Audio Description Associates, LLC, the Visual Made Verbal presents audio description, if your eyes could speak, making government video accessible to people who are blind, with Joel Snyder, PhD, President, Audio Description Associates, LLC, Director, Audio Description Project, ACB, American Council of the Blind, Federal Government Distance Learning Association, Wednesday, August 25th, 2021, 2 to 3 p.m. EDT. And at the bottom, the words American Audio Description Symbol. And within that phrase, there is a logo, an image, a white square within which are two letters in bold black type, an A and a D. The left side of that A is tilted just a bit to the right, and to the right of the curve in the D, 3 curved lines, period. Why do I say that? Well, because beginning describers, I've noticed, sometimes will go on and say something like, oh, they represent sound waves. Oh, that's true. That's true. But you know, there's nothing on the screen that says that for sighted people. Why would you add that information for people who are blind or have low vision? You know, at best, it's unnecessary. At worst, it could seem patronizing or condescending, as though people who grow up in the world don't have the same understanding as anyone else. Just because they're blind, they wouldn't know 3 curved lines or whatever. No, no, we describe, we don't explain, we show, we don't tell. So just a little bit about the audience for audio description that I think is really important to keep in mind. So though some of you may have taken my 3- and 5-day trainings in audio description, and you know that I spend a good bit of time talking about the people for whom we are providing this service. It's important to develop a healthy awareness, a healthy respect for the audience. What better way to begin a session on audio description than with description of a visual image. And here's the visual image. You know, I showed this to Carla the other day and said, Carla said, can't you enlarge it a little bit? What, I can't see, what does that caption say? What? Ah, there's method to my madness. Audio description is for sighted people too. Sighted people who, you know, the presenter forgot to enlarge the image, you know, or maybe you're in the back of a room and you just don't have access to the screen so easily. Sure. So that's my point. I'll describe it for you. I'll describe it for people who are blind as well as sighted people, right? The Fan by John McPherson. On a stage, at left, a woman in a flowing gown, her hands clasped in front of her, stands before a kneeling man in a doublet and feathered cap. He croons, "Why doth thy heart turn away from mine?" At right, a man at a microphone speaks. Basically, the guy with the goofy hat is ticked because this babe has been running around with the dude in the black tights. The caption reads, "Many opera companies now provide interpreters for the culturally impaired." You know, when I first saw this cartoon, this is the truth. I thought that guy kneeling, I thought he had an axe in his head or something. I didn't know what that was. You know, had I been listening to the audio description, it's just a feathered cap. There you go. Oh, and he's wearing a doublet. A doublet is, I learned something, a doublet. Sure, there you go. Let's try one more. Red and Rover by Brian Bassett. In the first panel, Red, a red-haired 8-year-old boy, is outdoors, lying on the ground against a tree, and he's facing away from us. And his right arm is around Rover, a white, short-haired dog, a lab beagle mix. A leaf falls. Red announces, "Brown." In the next panel, as Rover's tail taps, Red notes, "Orange, red, yellow." In the following panel, Red, orange, yellow, yellow. Next, Red turns toward us, eyes wide, and tells us, "Dogs only see in black and white." The final panel depicts a more full view of the tree, leaves scattered about the pair as Red continues, yellow, orange, brown, red, orange. I think that's true. Dogs don't have the same spectrum of color that we as humans do. They don't see all colors, you know. Now, sometimes people have heard me talk about this cartoon and say, "Well, Joel, that's cute and all, but what are you talking about color? People who are blind don't know from color. What are you doing? Why are you emphasizing color?" Well, golly, here's the thing. Our audience has a wide spectrum of vision loss. You know, when you say the word blind, people who are blind, sighted people tend to think no light perception and blind from birth, congenitally blind. When most folks who are blind are adventitiously blind, they became blind later in life, maybe due to the age-related diseases, that kind of thing. our audience has a wide spectrum of vision loss, and most had sight at some point. But you know what? Even the people who are congenitally blind, they know what color is. Sure, they know what color is. They know yellow. It might mean cowardly. Green in this country means money. Red is a warm color, et cetera, et cetera. People grow up in the world and they hear color. They hear about color. Color is more than just a hue or a frequency of light. So that's important to remember about our audience as well. It's a heterogeneous, wide spectrum kind of audience. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, audio description for dogs, right? Anyway, I subtitle this presentation, "If Your Eyes Could Speak." And I'll be honest, I stole that phrase from a movie that I just love. Maybe you remember it about 10 years ago, The Book Thief. And in the movie, a man is being hidden in the basement of a home for his own good. The windows in the basement are blacked out, so no one can see in. And of course, he can't see out. And at one point in the movie, a young girl that lives in the home, she would come down and visit with him, keep him company. They'd talk oftentimes about words, about language. And this is what happens.
Tell me, where do you get these words?
It's a secret.
And who would I tell? Can you do me a favor? Can you describe the day for me? What's it like outside?
It's cloudy.
No. Make the words yours. If your eyes could speak, what would they say?
It's a pale day.
Pale. Good, go on.
Everything's stuck behind a cloud. And the sun doesn't look like the sun.
What does it look like?
Like a silver oyster.
Thank you. I saw that.
He points to his head. Audio description by an 11-year-old girl. Audio description is a literary art form. He holds his hands out to the side. It's about words, I'm going to narrow that. It's a type of poetry. He brings his hands in closer to each other. I'll narrow it further. It's a haiku. His hands are almost touching. And why do I say that? Because we use as few words as possible to convey a verbal version of the visual. The visual is made verbal and oral, A-U-R-A-L, he points to his ear, and oral, O-R-A-L, he points to his mouth. Yeah, we use words that are succinct, vivid, imaginative, and we convey that the visual image. It's a kind of translation. It's studied as audiovisual translation in Europe. My PhD is from Barcelona, where there's a great program in audiovisual translation, studying subtitles, dubbing, and audio description. And we do this on behalf of a segment of the population that is significant. New estimates from the American Foundation for the Blind say that there are over 30 million Americans who are either blind or, quote, have trouble seeing, even with correction, unquote. That's 8% of the population. That's significant. That's huge. Add their friends, their family, etc. And of course, the rest of us, the visual image is just not fully realized by the rest of us. The rest of us meaning sighted folks who see, but don't really observe. Yeah, so it's useful for anyone who wants to develop, truly notice and appreciate a more full perspective on the visual, especially helpful for people who are blind or have low vision. Over 4 decades, I have described thousands of performing arts events, dance, opera, theater, and so on, but loads of feature films, television broadcasts, lots of arts events and cultural events, but I've also described weddings, parades, rodeos, circuses, sporting events, and even funerals. Wherever that visual image is important to an understanding, he points to his head, and an appreciation, his hand is on his heart, of the image of the event. And you know, Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act requires access to information and communication technology, ICT. You know, especially that is developed, procured, maintained, or used by federal agencies. In one aspect of all of that involves audio description, and that's accessibility to media for our audience. 30 million Americans, you know, that's significant. And I hope this presentation will demonstrate how audio description provides for government produced media, how we observe, how we select, and then succinctly and vividly use language to convey that visual image for employees of the government and the public who are blind or have low vision. Indeed, speaking of the government, I don't know how many of you would recognize this fellow here. Maybe New Yorkers will. I'm projecting the image, a black and white image of a man seated at a table, a fairly round face, shock of dark hair over his ample forehead, dark horn-rimmed glasses. He's wearing
Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert.
Nice, your cousin Stephen. No, he's got a double-breasted jacket on. He's got a sheaf of papers in his hands. In his right hand, a pen, and to his left, a microphone labeled WNYC. What's he got to do with the government? Well, my goodness, that's Fiorello LaGuardia, the mayor of New York City in the 1940s. Why do I have his image up? Because during his tenure, there was a newspaper strike. And remember, some of you will remember in the 40s, perhaps. You know, radio was how you got your information, or the newspaper. So newspaper strike, that's a big deal. It went on for quite some time, and the Mayor LaGuardia, savvy mayor that he was, he didn't take sides of the publishers. He didn't take the side of the workers. He took the side of the people. He went on the radio every Sunday and gave the people what they were missing most from their Sunday newspaper. The comics. There we are, back to the comics, right? He read the comics to the people of New York every Sunday morning, and of course, quickly realized, oh, I got to describe the images. So here you go, Fiorello LaGuardia, mayor and early audio describer. Here's another politician, government worker. You guys probably recognize this fellow, a very young Ronald Reagan, in front of a microphone and the call letters WHO on a speaker. You know, he began his career in radio as a sports announcer. And this it still blows my mind. He was in a studio in Illinois, and he would provide for his listeners the play-by-play of a game happening in New York City. Now, how did he do that? Well, he had a ticker tape that would provide for him the information: ball one, strike one, foul ball, strike two, pop fly to the left field, whatever. He took that information, he invented the images in his head. He described without even seeing what he was describing, based on the information he was given. That's this idea of using your imagination to convey things vividly. Ronald Reagan did that. Early audio describer, if you will. And I've got to also cite President Obama, pictured on the right there. What a brave man, shaking hands with an audio describer. Oh my goodness, that's me with a stenomask microphone in my left hand. He had me there, his staff had me at a public ceremony at the White House to describe images for blind people who were going to be there. And not only that, during Mr. Obama's administration, we described his inaugural events for ABC television, the White House ceremonies, the Department of Justice ceremonies would have me in regularly to describe their gatherings. They had at least half a dozen blind attorneys. We developed, I say we, the American Council of the Blind and its audio description project, which I founded about 12 years ago. we developed the first audio described tour of the White House. You all know you can tour through the public areas of the White House, but there's no guide. Nobody's telling you anything as you go through. It's a wonderful tour if you're sighted. If you're blind, not so much. Well, we developed an audio described tour that described each room as you went through that tour, delivered on MP3 players that were handed out to visitors. And by the way, I wrote the tour, but it was voiced by the late Eddie Walker, who many of you who are DC based will remember. Marvelous, a legendary voice talent and radio announcer, totally blind since about the age of 7, I believe, Eddie Walker. So, but perhaps the most—
Well, you know, Joe,
Yeah,
the
please.
thing about this picture, this photograph, it's great. But I noticed that security guard to the right of
He's got
the
his eyes on me.
president, he's watching you.
He's got his eye.
He does.
Well, because earlier when I was describing the tour, I think I might have inadvertently picked up some of the silverware. I don't know how that happened, but so he had his eyes on me. Very good, Russ. I do want to mention the most significant thing about Mr. Obama's administration and audio description, and that's the passage of the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, CVAA. For the first time, it mandated audio description on broadcast television. Mr. Obama signed that in 2010.
Excellent.
Went into effect in 2012. We're still at a very teeny tiny amount, only about 7 hours per week for the top 9 broadcasters. And that's only in about 60 markets. But hopefully we will get legislation that does what legislation did for captioning some 40 years ago, and that provides for a percentage increase every year, and more description, more and more television will be available and described. So, and feature films, by the way, most all of them have description because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and museums now as well, and performing arts spaces. But let me, I want to take a second here and let me help you see what description is all about by shutting up for a minute and by figuratively having you close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. No, what I'm going to do is have you experience just a short clip from the original soundtrack of an excerpt from a major motion picture, The Color of Paradise. You may remember it. You're all blind. You can't see the image, and I'm going to give you the original soundtrack. No audio description. This came out 20 years ago. It's a major motion picture. You should have no problem. What can you glean about the film as a blind person in the movie theater, when you're limited to listening only? Let's try it.
Joel, the audience can put this in the chat. Anything they want to talk with you about.
I'm going to put you out of your misery because, what is going on? If you were a blind person in the movie theater, you wouldn't be in the movie theater very long. You would be out the door because this is not making any sense. What's going on? What's going on to your neighbor? And then you're bothering everybody else. Yeah. Oh, hard to tell. No audio description. I guess it's just not for me, huh? Well, let's experience the same excerpt. Yeah, I'm going to do it again and give you the whole excerpt this time. You're all still blind, but there'll be no picture. But I want you to hear the audio description that I wrote and voiced when this was broadcast on television about 20 years ago. I don't know. This is pretty tough. A lot of birds. Will this make a difference? Let's see by listening.
Muhammad kneels and taps his hands through the thick ground cover of brown, curled leaves. A scrawny nestling struggles on the ground near Muhammad's hand. His palm hovers above the baby bird. He lays his hand lightly over the tiny creature. Smiling, Muhammad curls his fingers around the chick and scoops it into his hands. He stands and strokes its nearly featherless head with a fingertip. Muhammad starts as the bird nips his finger. He taps his finger on the chick's gaping beak. He tilts his head back, then drops it forward. Muhammad tips the chick into his front shirt pocket. Wrapping his legs and arms around a tree trunk, Muhammad climbs. He latches onto a tangle of thin upper branches. His legs flail for a foothold. Muhammad stretches an arm between a fork in the trunk of the tree and wedges in his head and shoulder. His shoes slip on the rough bark. He wraps his legs around the lower trunk, then uses his arms to pull himself higher. He rises into thicker foliage and holds onto tangles of smaller branches. Gaining his footing, Muhammad stands upright and cocks his head to one side. An adult bird flies from a nearby branch. Muhammad extends his open hand. He touches a branch and runs his fingers over wide green leaves. He pats his hand down the length of the branch. His fingers trace the smooth bark of the upper branches, search the network of connecting tree limbs, and discover their joints. Above his head, Muhammad's fingers find a dense mass of woven twigs, a bird's nest. Smiling, he removes the chick from his shirt pocket and drops it gently into the nest beside another fledgling. He rubs the top of the chick's head with his index finger. Muhammad wiggles his finger like a worm and taps the chick's open beak. Smiling, he slowly lowers his hand.
Okay, a bit more clear, maybe. Yes, I hope. Yeah. Now, I know you guys were listening closely. Well, Russ, I thought he nodded off there for a minute. But anyway, for those of you that were listening closely to the description of Muhammad and his interaction with the tree, what can you tell me about him? What do you know about him? Now, remember the character of Muhammad, his visage, what he looks like was described earlier in the film. And that's why you didn't have any of that there. But I suspect that in about 10 or 15 seconds, because we're going to watch this now, I'm going to restore sight to everybody. I love this part, right? We're going to watch the excerpt. And I think about a little bit in, you're going to be surprised, I think. Yeah. As you watch, consider the words being used and why the images that were chosen for description were chosen. Would you have singled out other images? Description is often about what not to describe, what to let go, zero in on essence. Let's try it. Everybody's vision is now intact. Here we go.
Muhammad kneels and taps his hands through the thick ground cover of brown, curled leaves. A scrawny nestling struggles on the ground near Muhammad's hand. His palm hovers above the baby bird. He lays his hand lightly over the tiny creature. Smiling, Muhammad curls his fingers around the chick and scoops it into his hands. He stands and strokes its nearly featherless head with a fingertip.
Muhammad is blind.
Muhammad starts as the bird nips his finger. He taps his finger on the chick's gaping beak. He tilts his head back, then drops it forward. Muhammad tips the chick into his front shirt pocket. Wrapping his legs and arms around a tree trunk, Muhammad climbs. He latches onto a tangle of thin upper branches. His legs flail for a foothold. Muhammad stretches an arm between a fork in the trunk of the tree and wedges in his head and shoulder. His shoes slip on the rough bark. He wraps his legs around the lower trunk, then uses his arms to pull himself higher. He rises into thicker foliage and holds onto tangles of smaller branches. Gaining his footing, Muhammad stands upright and cocks his head to one side. An adult bird flies from a nearby branch. Muhammad extends his open hand. He touches a branch and runs his fingers over wide green leaves. He pats his hand down the length of the branch. His fingers trace the smooth bark of the upper branches, search the network of connecting tree limbs, and discover their joints. Above his head, Muhammad's fingers find a dense mass of woven twigs, a bird's nest. Smiling, he removes the chick from his shirt pocket and drops it gently into the nest beside another fledgling. He rubs the top of the chick's head with his index finger. Muhammad wiggles his finger like a worm and taps the chick's open beak. Smiling, he slowly lowers his hand.
Yeah. And thank you, Russ, by the way, for mentioning the chat. I will go to the chat a little bit later. I want to be sure we have time to cover some material here. For instance, like the script for the audio description. That's what I'm projecting right now. It's annotated with some notes about how we did the description. You know, thick ground cover of brown curled leaves. Well, brown and curled leaves, it's fall, it's autumn. Yeah, we don't say it's autumn, we show it's autumn, right? And color, again, color has been shown to be important to people with low vision, even people who are congenitally blind. Then a little later, there's a cue, some gasping, some chirping for just 2 seconds, and then we come in with description because the timing is critical in the crafting of description, especially for video. We weave descriptive language around a film's sound elements. Language, you know, he curls his fingers around the chick and scoops it into his hands. He doesn't grab it. He doesn't pick it up. No, he scoops it. Vivid verbs help conjure images in the mind's eye. And a little later, he taps his finger on the chick's gaping beak. He tilts his head back, then drops it forward. Muhammad tips the chick into his front shirt pocket. Taps, tilts, tips. Description, again, like poetry, is written to be heard. Alliteration adds variety and helps to maintain interest. And then let's see, was that, oh yeah, a little later, an adult bird flies from a nearby branch. There's a lot going on there that didn't get described. You can't, because there's no time, and you don't want to either, because you want to get to essence. What to include? Well, that image is important because the adult bird returns in the next scene. A bit of foreshadowing, perhaps, on the part of the filmmaker. And at the end, you know, he rubs the top of the chick's head with his index finger, not his pinky, not his thumb. No, be specific. Precision creates images. And what does he do? He wiggles his finger like a worm. Similes paint pictures. There's no worm there, but here's imagination coming into play. If you envision a worm and invoke its image, you help people understand what is happening on the screen. So a lot of this is covered in, I think there was a handout, Fundamentals of Audio Description, that may have been made available to you. I can send it to you if you contact me. That would be fine. Speaking of blind kids, though, I want to mention something. I did a workshop with the Connecticut Children's Museum in New Haven, Connecticut. I was working with a class of blind kids, mostly blind kids, low vision and such, and with their teachers on what actually is I think a new application for audio description, and that's literacy for any child. We experimented with developing more descriptive language to use when working with kids and picture books or short videos, you know. Now, picture books, duh, those pictures rely on the images to tell the story. But I think a teacher trained in audio description techniques, or mama or papa or aunt or uncle, if you're trained in audio description techniques, you would never hold this image up, a big red ball, and just read the text, see the ball, and move on. No, 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 no. I think you might add, that ball is red, just like a fire engine. I think it's as large as you are. It's as round as the sun, a bright red circle or sphere. Yeah. So what has the teacher done? Introduced new vocabulary, invited comparisons, used a simile with toddlers. So with audio description, you make that book accessible to a child who has low vision or is blind. But I think you help develop more sophisticated language skills for all kids. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Maybe so. Although I think describers would say that a few well-chosen words can conjure vivid and lasting images. Describers and audio description consumers would say that, I think. For 6 years, I developed the description, produced the description, voiced most of the episodes of the description for Sesame Street, an American icon of media. And, it's been around 40 years. I remember getting a letter from an adult woman, a blind woman, that was listening to description with Sesame Street. And I thought, well, that's a little old for Sesame Street, maybe. Well, she enjoyed it as a child, as a blind child, the music and the funny dialogue. Well, now she has a sighted child, and she can follow along with her child, all the antics of Bert and Ernie and Elmo and what have you. We did the Spanish version of Sesame Street, Plaza Sesamo. We did their DVDs. So yeah, let me take just a minute and give you a clip of Elmo's World with description.
Elmo stands beside Dorothy's fishbowl.
Hi, this is Elmo's World. Oh, Elmo's so very happy to see you. Oh, and so is Dorothy. Say hello, Dorothy.
An orange goldfish.
Oh, guess what Elmo's thinking about today?
Elmo glances around himself.
Hear that? Yeah!
Elmo dances to a purple door and opens it. Outside, people and puppets sit on steps on Sesame Street. The doorway stretches wide.
Oh, thank you.
The people and puppets wave at Elmo. Elmo turns around.
Oh, Sesame Street.
Oscar pops up.
Hey, get lost.
Oscar. You know Sesame Street.
Elmo and the others dance. Now a bird puppet flies over Sesame Street. Alan dances with a broom. A man in ballet tights jumps up and down with letters. People and puppets bounce. 4 cartoon baby dragons appear. A man dressed in a big letter M dances on a beach. A bat puppet follows the count. Maria kisses Luis on the cheek. A blonde woman plays piano. A cartoon orange wears sunglasses. Grover the waiter drops dishes. Big Bird plays with children. Rosita dances with sheep puppets. A boy wears a red mask and yellow cape. Alpha Boy. Bert struts. Cartoon men dance. A bearded man dances with a cane. A woman plays guitar. Ernie holds a banana in his ear. Telly does an Egyptian dance. A woman claps while puppets sway. Zoe dances with a boy and girl. A man sits at a piano and squeezes a rubber ducky. A man plays an electric guitar. Gordon waves from a window. Cookie Monster hugs a doll. Now Dorothy swims by a small green lamppost in her bowl. A sign, Sesame Street.
Look, Dorothy's been thinking about Sesame Street too.
Yeah. All right, well, let's bring this home. to government agencies and government media. You know, the National Park Service has been a real leader in government in making their parks accessible with audio described tours. My own company's done dozens of these tours for visitor centers at Park Service sites, the Forest Service as well. We did description for the opening exhibit at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A number of different agencies are really showing the way in making media accessible. Let me give you one example. This is a very brief clip that the Centers for Disease Control what am I saying? The Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, something like that. The CDC, right? Here's a clip that they wanted to have described because it was totally silent. What do? This is what we did.
Tips from Former Smokers campaign, #CDC-Tips. A horizontal orange line appears on the screen, moving to the right. People from multiple cultural backgrounds appear as the line keeps moving. Today, there are 40 million adult cigarette smokers in the U.S. Over 16 million Americans live with a smoking-related illness. The line begins moving downward, revealing dates and percentages. 42.2% of adults smoked in 1965, 33.2% smoked in 1980, and 24.7% smoked in 1995.
Yeah, just a real little clip there. Not that there was no audio, there was music, but there was no language, no words to help people understand what was going on the screen. This happened at the White House too. The last year of President Obama's second term, they sent out a video Christmas card. What a wonderful thing, a video Christmas card. And really it was just a video tour of the White House backed by a jazz version of "O Come All Ye Faithful." And they played it for me, and I thought, this is lovely, but incomprehensible to somebody who's blind. And we actually developed audio description, making that video Christmas card accessible. I don't have it handy right here, but that's another example of a government agency, the White House. Here's another one. Here's the USDA. That's there you go, USDA. A little bit of Spanish audio description for you.
Departamento de Agricultura de los Estados Unidos. Descripción general del patrón de comidas para bebés y adultos.
Hola, soy Sarah Williams. Bienvenido a nuestro Centro de Cuidado Infantil. Es un placer poder hablar con usted sobre cómo su centro u hogar de cuidado infantil puede ayudar a los bebés a tener un comienzo saludable en la vida. Participar en el programa de alimentos para el cuidado de niños y adultos del Departamento de Agricultura de los Estados Unidos, conocido como CACFP, es una excelente manera de ayudar a asegurar que los bebés que usted cuida reciban la nutrición que necesitan para su crecimiento y desarrollo.
En un centro de cuidado infantil.
Los bebés no son solo más pequeños que los
And it goes on. You know, many government videos, you know, are a lot of talk and there's not a lot of time. And that might be something to think about as you produce your videos. Keep in mind that if there's some degree of pause between lines, between bits and pieces of dialogue, that will allow for description. Or you can produce the video with description as it goes along, perhaps voiced by a narrator or by the characters or people being interviewed, that sort of thing. It's self-described. Then you have one size fits all. It's inclusively designed, and you don't have one version without description, one version with description. No, it can be one version for all. That's something to think about.
Hey, Joel, it's
sir.
An interesting story. It's creating time when you're making videos to communicate with your audiences. Rhonda Wingate is one of our attendees on the call today.
Oh, good.
And she and I had to produce a video for one of the sessions at Zoomtopia that Carla and I are going to be speaking at. And we had 24 seconds to produce a video.
Oh, boy.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And we had a list, Joel, this long of things we had to cover in 24 seconds.
Yeah, it's
almost impossible.
Absolutely. You know, I have a large contract doing description for all of Microsoft's promotional videos. Some of them are 15 seconds long.
Oh boy.
Even 6 seconds long. So it's a matter of just getting in some information, a chyron on the screen, perhaps, that sort of thing. I remember doing a Chase bank commercial, a 30-second version, and then they threw a 15-second version at us. And the commercial's a whole story, really. So it really is trying to convey that whole story in as little amount of time as possible. It's tough, you're right. That's why the work gets farmed out to audio description producers, but it can also be done in-house. In closing, though, I want to leave some time for questions and such. I've got a true story for you. A blind fellow was once visiting a museum, and he was approached by a sighted woman who had the temerity to come up to him and say, "Excuse me, but why are you in a museum? You're blind, you can't see any of the exhibits." Well, he was a little taken aback, but his response, "I'm here for the same reason anyone goes to a museum. I want to learn, I want to know, I want to be a part of our culture." His inability to see shouldn't deny him access to culture and its resources. I think it's the responsibility of all public institutions, government, private, to be as inclusive as possible. It's about access to culture, and that's everybody's right. It comes down to, there simply is no good reason why a person with a particular physical disability must also be culturally disadvantaged. No. And let me emphasize one last point. Here in the United States, the principal constituency for folks who are blind, for the constituency for audio description, are folks who are blind. And they have an unemployment rate of 70%, 70. Wow. I think that with more meaningful access to culture and its resources, to government services, people become more informed. They become more engaged with society. They become more engaging individuals. And perhaps that means more employable. So with that, I do want to share a resource with you. I am the founder of the American Council of the Blind's Audio Description Project, and the website is just a font of information about audio description, adp.acb.org. I can even go there real quickly and show you, this is the active homepage for the Audio Description Project website, and you can find out what's on television right now with description, what performing arts events by state, what museums by state have description. This is all at adp.acb.org. So I think that's a good thing to remember. Let me go back to my final slide is simply the contact information. There you go. My website is audiodescribe.com. You can reach me, and I encourage you to reach out, jsnyder@audiodescribe.com, or through the Audio Description Project website. Look at that. I wrote a book, The Visual Made Verbal, a comprehensive training manual and guide to the history and applications of audio description. It's available at Amazon. That's the easiest way to get hold of it. And it's in Braille, and it's available as an audiobook, and it's in Portuguese and Polish and Russian, Spanish, and will come out in Spanish later this month. And then Italian and Chinese are in the works right now. So
wow.
Finally, I want to mention one of the projects, one of the initiatives of the Audio Description Project is the full training in audio description. So we just had an institute that was done virtually. Our next one will also be done virtually, February of 2022. We'll all be in person, he says, he hopes, for the 12th Audio Description Project Audio Description Institute in Omaha, Nebraska, July 2022. So what that means is, if you did not enjoy the last hour with me, you certainly will not enjoy 3 days with me. So keep that in mind when you think about more training in audio description. With that, let's go to the chat, Russ, and I can bring it up here, I think, and see what kinds of questions or comments.
Yeah, there's
Folks
actually
have.
a question from Gary.
Oh, good. Yes,
Okay,
Gary.
he says, what
Gary's
standard?
Gary's one of those unfortunate folks who sat through Audio Description Institute training with me. God bless you.
He says, what standards for quality exist in the CVAA or elsewhere? How is quality defined by any source?
You know, that is a great question. And from your lips to God's ears, Gary, the CVAA, just like the law that instituted captioning, says nothing about quality. It really doesn't. The FCC, only in this past year, I was a part of the Disability Advisory Committee, and we developed some guidelines that talk about quality of description, but it was tough going. There's resistance to a government agency coming out and saying, this is how you should do something. This is how you should make speech, get into First Amendment issues, according to the National Association of Broadcasters. So I think what the law doesn't say it, but you can go to my book. There are websites and other guidelines, best practices available around the world. And that's what I direct people to.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Joel.
Yeah, please.
Because of the Olympics. I watched skateboarding at the Olympics.
Right.
And there were two levels of narrators, the regular narrator, and then on top of that was the audio description narrator. They apparently were not in the same space together, so they were constantly talking over each other. But it was also the wording of the audio description person trying to describe people doing the crazy things that they do in skateboarding. So do people train for that? I mean, it was really quite amazing to listen to.
Yeah, it's basic training in audio description. I've done quite a few live events with extemporaneous description, meaning there was no preview. The inaugurations are a good example, and the Olympics are one example. Now, I did not listen to this description. I know that it was described, and I know that the Paralympics right now have description. Typically, you really do try to use only, you have to be sensitive to where the pauses in the speech of the host happen. Who am I to talk over George Stephanopoulos? You know, and if I do, it's going to be confusing.
You're Joel Snyder.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So if they were really talking over folks, that's probably not so helpful. And I'd love to hear that. Maybe there's a recording or something, and comment on that. But extemporaneous description, the basic fundamentals are there, but you really do have to be careful about being sensitive to what the filmmaker has done or the videographer is doing. We are in service to the people listening, but we are also in service to what it is being described. We can't be overlapping with it. We can't be distracting from it or make it confusing. So, yeah.
There's another Eliza Hernandez is asking, do you have any recommendations for how we might use audio description services with YouTube?
That's great. Well, let me plug an entity, a web page called udescribe.org. What the San Francisco's Smith Kettlewell Institute developed by a blind fellow, Dr. Josh Mealy, good friend. He developed a platform in the web where you can upload a YouTube video and then upload to it description that anybody can create. And you download it together, pair them, and you have an audio described video. The reason for that, of course, is because how many videos are on YouTube or Facebook, right? Billions. They're not all going to get professionally described. You know, so udescribe is one way to give some people some facility to make those anybody. It's like fan subbing, if you will. It's this fan describing, and it gives there's some facility then to make it accessible to folks who are blind. I think YouTube needs to make more available, and other video platforms, a video player that allows you to turn on and off the description. You notice that in videos players, you know, there's a button to turn on and off the closed captioning, but usually you don't see the button for audio description. It's only available in certain video players, and it has to be there, because why should you have to click here for the regular video and then click here for the audio described version when you could simply turn it on and off. That makes a lot more sense.
And I just turned on live transcription because we had one person
Good.
in the audience that asked for that. I'll turn it off in just a second. But
Oh, sure.
to demonstrate, Joel, how easy it was for me to turn that on. And we also had a question just a moment ago in the chat. And if I can remember what it was.
I'm looking through the chat here.
It says, it was for
Oh,
Russ. It says, could you talk about Zoom for Gov and what professional captioning services can be integrated into Zoom for Government, ZFG?
Yeah,
Carla,
that's a good question. I'm going to let Russ take it though. But what I have discovered that is that some people will use the interpreter function, which is really there. I've been doing training in Hong Kong this past month and in Malaysia, and I turn on the English buttons. I can hear English translation of what people are saying in Malay, that kind of thing. Is that the way to do it, Russ?
That's one way, Joel, you can do it. You can do it with live transcription. What I just activated and took down, that's live simultaneous translation from your voice to a textual display for someone that is hearing impaired. Now, the other question that I just remembered, how do we find that handout that you mentioned?
Oh, I wasn't sure if that had gotten provided to y'all. Just send me a note, jsnyder@audiodescribe.com, and I will send it directly to anyone. It's a 2-pager essay, The Fundamentals of Audio Description, that really gives a summary of my book, basically, a summary of the 4 fundamentals that we talk about in training of describers, the fundamentals of audio description. And just send me a note, jsnyder@audiodescribe.com. That might be the easiest.
Jenny put it into the e-bulletin.
Oh, good.
Jenny?
Yeah. But
look in the chat and tell me where it is. I know she was here earlier.
Yeah,
here now.
I'm putting my email address up there, so
that's
good. People have it there. So anyway, yeah,
that's perfect. That's great. Carla, next month we have a session that talks about everything A to Z related to Zoom. We'll save, if you don't mind, the follow-up. Gary wants some information about closed captioning, about live transcription, and language interpretation. So we'll cover that next month during, let's see, Carla, that is September the 25th, I believe, at 2:00 Eastern time. I promise we'll save those with myself and Pat Lamort when we do the session next month.
September 22nd.
September 22nd. Thank you for that. So Carla, that brings us to the end of our time today. Thank you, Joel and Carla.
Thank you, Russ and Carla.
You're so welcome. Carla, over to you for final comments.
Joel, thank you. It was wonderful. I learned so much, and it's fabulous to be able to hear what you've done. And when you showed the scripts that you did for the picture, I mean, it really helped me because I'm a writer, producer, director. So being able to see what you're able to do with that, that was a question in the back of my mind. So thank you so much.
You bet.
So we want to extend our thanks to Joel for being with us today. And we also want to thank Russ Colbert and Zoom for being with us today and providing all this wonderful support. You two are great to work with. I haven't had this much fun in years.
Are you telling the truth, Carla?
Yes, I'm telling the truth. You know, when you work alone, right? All right, you all, thank you so much for being with us today. It was wonderful. Join us next month on September 22nd. We'll be back then. That concludes the webinar. Good evening.
Bye-bye.